A major change to the Miami Heat starting lineup may be coming because I think it could happen. I would argue it should happen, and I'll explain what that starting lineup change is. But first, I wanted to go back just a year ago, not a full year, just about 5, 6 months at this point. Let's look at the most used starting lineup for the Miami Heat last season after the trade deadline. This actually, believe it or not, was it. I did a little bit of looking. This starting five, Herro, Burks, Wiggins, Bam, and Ware, started together about 9 times after the deadline. If you're wondering, Davion Mitchell took the spot of Alec Burks for about 7 games. It actually happened prior, and then near the tail end of the regular season, they moved Davion to the bench and Alec Burks into the starting lineup. Well, most people, including myself, initially this offseason believed that the lineup would just feature one change, that being the newly acquired Norman Powell taking the spot of Alec Burks, who is no longer on the Heat roster. So it would keep that same 4 of Herro, Wiggins, Ware, and Bam, and then Powell just comes in for Burks, and that be your starting 5 with the revamped bench of Jovic, Mitchell, Jaquez, Drew Smith, Fontecchio, Larson, and the other people on the group. But I don't know if that should be the case, and this is not me saying that I don't think Norman Powell should be the starter. It's actually the opposite. It's a different player, a part of that projected starting 5 that I don't think should actually be in the opening 5 for Heat games this season. And I'll tell you who that is in a second. But my bosses are challenging me to get the most likes on a video in the past 10 days. The previous high was 138. So let's get to 150. No one likes to have the bosses on their back, so help me out. Hit that thumbs up icon. Let's get to 150 likes. The change, you might know it if you watched the videos over the past 2 or 3 days in full, because I briefly mentioned this idea. But I think the Miami Heat should actually move Kel'el Ware to the bench and start Nikola Jovic. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, by the way. I have been saying this for the past, I would say, week or so. But Zach Lowe, someone I fully respect in the NBA business, said on his podcast the other day that he would consider starting Powell, Herro, Wiggins, Jovic, and Bam. And because he's not sure that the double big look with Ware and Bam is the way that he wants to go to start out the year. Start Jovic and then figure out the guard spot, which is likely going to be Powell and Herro. And I've started to believe this because to me, the roster balance is just so much better. If the Heat had a serviceable third big man to bring off of the bench, we might be having a different conversation. But since the Heat don't have a third big that can come off the bench and replace Bam and Ware potentially, well, you only have 2 true centers on this roster. That being Ware and Bam, because Jovic ain't a center. He is more of a 4 and a 3. So it's like, are you going super small ball here? It's clear that Miami still views Adebayo as a center rather than a 4 or a wing type of player that many fans, including myself, have wanted him to do. A lot of us wanted to have him lose weight, become a fully converted wing, sign a backup center to be Ware's backup. That's not the case. So we got to treat Bam as a center. In that 4-man lineup of a potential Wiggins, Bam, Herro, and Jovic, to me, showed a lot of nice things. Now, they only appeared in 3 games a year ago. This was largely in part of Jovic getting hurt, that broken wrist that cost him basically the end of the regular season, the final 2.5 months. Well, when those 4 shared 18 minutes together, yes, they were a negative 0.6 net rating, but they were dynamic offensively. Miami has had a bottom 10 offense in the NBA in 5 of the last 6 seasons. Well, they had a 123.7 offensive rating in those 18 minutes and a 64.4% true shooting percentage. Those are elite numbers. And to me, if you had elite numbers with those 4 as a core 4, if you will, and then you add a Norman Powell, who is one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA from a year ago, averaging 20.8 points per game, shooting 43% from 3, 48% from the field. Well, your offense now would be considered and projected to be one of the most high-powered offenses in the entire NBA. I think adding Powell to that group would be absolutely phenomenal. And yes, maybe the defense would be a little bit lackluster for Miami Heat standards, but I think it's about time we try to kind of make an identity shift from a low-scoring offensive team, got to win defensive battles 105-100, to why not go out and score an average 115, 116 points per game? That starting five would be very high-powered offensively. So before I talk more on the matter, who should start in your opinion? Should it be Nikola Jovic? If so, type NJ. If it should be Kel'el Ware, type KW. Let me know your thoughts. And before the Kel'el Ware superfans come at me with pitchforks, this is not me saying this because of an indictment on Ware, but it's more or less me fully believing that Nikola Jovic is ready to take that next step forward in his fourth year in the NBA, but also the state of the current Heat roster. We talked about it. They don't have a backup big man, so you'd be starting both of your centers together in the games with none on the bench. I also have concerns on the spacing. I'm just not sure that Ware and Bam can stay on the floor and have a well-oiled, efficient offense at this point. Because Ware was only a 33% three-point shooter. Bam was 35%. Ware's three-point shooting was going like this at the end of the year. Now Bam's was going like this. But until one of them has a true three-point shot that is feared and respected by NBA defenses, I don't think you could play those two together, because now you're really limiting the space where Andrew Wiggins can operate, Norman Powell, Tyler Herro. Because if those two are clogging up the paint, it's now tough jump shots from those three all the time. But if you're able to start Jovic, who gives you more three-point shooting, more on-ball creation, and actually I would argue more defensive versatility, I think it's a more cohesive unit that could give more layers and tough looks to opposing defenses. Ware is a better defender than Jovic. There's no question about that. And the rim protection duo of Bam and Ware is absolutely elite. But Jovic can guard 2s, 3s, and 4s at times. Ware can only really guard 5s and 4s. So you have more versatility with Jovic, Wiggins, and Bam, because Jovic could guard 5s in a limited capacity as well. So you have more defensive versatility, more on-ball creation. You can let Jovic initiate the half-court offense and have Herro and Powell play off-ball. Like, there is just so many different ways you can attack defenses with a lineup of Jovic, Bam, Powell, Wiggins, and Herro, which is why I think it makes so much sense for the Heat to do this. And if you want more daily content on the Miami Heat, subscribe to the channel today. This is the family here at the Heat Report, and we're set to get the regular season started in just about a month. Don't miss any action right now. I do want to make this clear as well. This is also not going to take away Bam and Ware playing together. It will just help stagger the lineup a little bit, because you will have minutes, maybe a little more or less than last year, but you will have minutes where the two share the floor. And I think what some Heat fans maybe take a little too much stock in is who starts games in terms of instead of who finishes games, because the true importance for the Miami Heat is who is playing in the final 5 minutes, crunch time, rather than who's playing in the first 6 minutes. But I just think this change would help the Heat get off to a hotter start offensively than in years past. And if you did make this move, a projected bench of Davion, Ware, Jaquez, Larson, and Fontecchio has a very solid balance to it. I really like that. I can't harp on that balance enough. The roster construction for Miami, I think it's a better team than it was last year. But there is a little bit of a clunkiness, if you will, in terms of the wings. Because think about this. If you keep Jovic on the bench, you have Jovic, Larson, Jaquez, and Fontecchio. That's 4 wings/forwards coming off the bench. You start Jovic and move Ware to the bench. Well, now you only have 3 bench wings/forwards, a bench center finally, and I just think it makes your team more balanced as a whole. That's the word of today's show, balance. I hate to keep on harping on that, but that is the true kind of underlying message here on why I think this should be the starting lineup over what we've had projected for most of the season. Rounding out the show here in a second, but Don't miss out on the opportunity to get this Miami Heat hoodie 56% off. Usually $120, now $53. Chatsports.com/Heat sale is the link. That is in the description and comments of today's video. Go grab yours before the season begins. This would just be for now, by the way. Because to me, when you think of the future of the Miami Heat, the goal still should be to have Bam and Ware as your starting 4 and 5. That is the long-term goal here. Heck, I would even argue that the goal here for the Miami Heat is to have your starting front court be Nikola Jovic, Bam Adebayo, Kel'el Ware. And once Wiggins' contract runs out, or you trade him, well, that's where Jovic starts at the 3 because he could certainly play on the perimeter. And I think he is improving enough defensively to where maybe he could guard 3s in the NBA. And if not, well, we know Bam could lose the weight, guard 3s, and Jovic guards 4s. I think it would work. That's the goal. But as long as Andrew Wiggins is on your roster, he's going to be starting at the 3. So the goal is to have those 3 as a starting group in the front court. And if I'll be honest, the goal for Miami should be this to be the starting 5 of the future. The 20th overall pick in this year's draft, Kasparas Jakubonis. I know we haven't seen him play. In Summer League, it was very up and down. But there is a lot of high hopes from me and other Heat fans out there, as well as people in the Heat building. So in 3 years from now, there is a chance that this is the starting lineup. There's also a chance that 3 of these guys aren't even on the Heat roster. Herro might be traded. Jovic has got 1 year left on his deal. Like, you don't know this. But the goal should be is that your homegrown, your young talent ultimately ascends to the point where you want to have them in your starting 5 as a cohesive group. That is the goal. And it's not me saying Jovic over Ware now is for the future as well. No, I want them all to be together. I just think with having the veterans that you have in Wiggins and Powell, the better state and the better grouping would include Jovic over Ware. If you have more thoughts or want to hit me up for more thoughts or get more thoughts from yours truly, go follow me at Nic_Rohloff. That's my handle on Twitter. We're keeping a conversation rolling 24/7 over there.